You might not suspect it, but between those two buildings, there's a kitchen, and not any kitchen, a real kitchen, where things happen and we cook for the front line. So actually, I'm not gonna talk about it. I'm gonna be joined by Richard and have a slightly nicer
Dobry den.
setup. And I want to know, first of all, hi Richard.
Pleasure to meet you.
Tell me a bit more about what is Frontline Kitchen and what you do.
So, Frontline Kitchen, originally, well, still named Lviv Volontersky Kuchnia, has been going for 9 years now, and Frontline Kitchen is the Twitter space name for Lviv Volontersky Kuchnia. It was founded by Luda and Oksana 9 years ago now, and they've been cooking every single day for the troops on the front line, creating dehydrated meals such as this. And yeah, it was founded by them. They just started up a group of babusias cooking in their own individual homes. And then after a few months, realized, hey, we need to get a proper premises going. We need to figure out how to scale this up so that we can get more food heading out to our boys in the east, in the Donbass region. And yeah, and now it's evolved.
How many people about? Because it was quite busy when we arrived. There was a lot of people moving in and out. You'll see a lot of people moving in and out because right now people are cooking. And how many people are kind of involved? When did it start?
So in the kitchen itself, there's about 30, 40 people on a daily basis, kind of rotating shifts, but not an official schedule or anything like that. So then we have an extra, everyone's volunteer.
Perfect.
And then we have an extra kind of 10 people in a packaging house that are there all day, every day too. Just putting the final dried product all together that we're kind of cutting up today. And yes, and tomorrow and the day after that until victory. So.
Perfect. So I see we're surrounded by veggies.
By veg.
What is your plan for veggies today? What is kind of, let's say, one of the popular food that you're cooking? What do you have in mind?
So the most important things that we're doing every day is cutting up the beetroot, the lettuce, so buryak, kapusta, morkva, so carrots, kartoffeln, the potatoes.
Cabbage and beets.
And beetroot, yes. And carrots, of course. And this is by the thousands and thousands every day, just huge piles and crates full. As high as we're standing every day of beets. And
who's delivering those? So they're not cut yet. You have to.
It's delivered by local farmers and food distributors.
Okay,
yeah.
Perfect. So they arrive here. You cook them. You cut them and then you dehydrate them.
Yes, yeah. Well, we shred everything up and then it gets dehydrated, and then packaged up into big plastic bags effectively, and then sent off to the packaging house.
So we'll get to do a visit just a bit later as we fight away to not get invaded by the flag. But essentially, you get nonstop produce. You dehydrate it, and the reason you dehydrate is what? Why can you not just, for example, send Borsch directly?
One very good point is because of the amount of size it will take up. Mm-hmm. So because this is dehydrated, it takes up a lot smaller package size, where if you kind of sent it out as Borsch, this would be 10 liters. So you would have a big cauldron almost of Borsch that you'd be shipping out, rather than just this tiny little packet that they can then obviously add water to.
So for example, this will equal something like an entire pallet.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And I guess they can keep it for longer. It's dehydrated. Exactly. They can reuse it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's cook some Borsch. I think that's we're from Canada. Of course, there's a huge Ukrainian community, but a lot of people don't know about Borsch. Not enough people know about Borsch. What is Borsch? What makes it so special?
So Borsch is exactly as you see here in the packet. It's a mixture of beetroot, kapusta, morkva, with some chili peppers and spices, and the beetroot is the main thing that it's known for. Everyone kind of thinks of Borsch as kind of like a beetroot soup.
Okay.
And it's Ukraine's national dish. So it's a UNESCO World Heritage protected dish. And yeah, it's incredibly beautiful and delicious, and most Ukrainians eat it almost every single day. So
yeah, that was definitely part of my childhood. I think 75% of my body was from Borsch, essentially. So we basically gonna put a list of ingredients if people want to cook it at home. I think the nice idea is that we can just do it together, kind of break the ice for people to have a taste of it.
And this list will be from Pani Luda, who you'll meet in a moment, her famous Borsch recipe that we'll also kind of send out so that people have the whole recipe.
You said the entirety of Ukraine eats Borsch almost daily. Is there one specific recipe, or you can go crazy and make a lot of
thousands of different recipes? And every single babushka and every home will have their own variation of Borsch, and each different region across the country.
Is there some ingredients that you, besides water, that you must absolutely put?
You have to have beetroots every time, and kapusta, of course, and carrots. They're like the three main base, as well as onion, too. But then you can mix about with different kind of beans and.
So that's the base. Then you can put beans or not if you want to make it.
Exactly. So we won't be using beans today. But.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, there's essentially dried out, so you can add them at any point if you want proteins. I saw, of course, the red or orange type of borscht. There's some other colors as well.
Yes. So sometimes it comes out a bit brownish.
Okay.
But ours will be a bright, vibrant purple today. Oh. So that'll be the key one that you see in all of the restaurants. It looks incredibly delicious.
Fantastic. Yeah. So if you see, if you have access to beets, now is time to use them. The fantastic time. Depending when you watch, of course, this video. But in Canada, around the harvesting season, those beets are plentiful.
Yeah.
Extremely easy to get by, and people actually eat them in a can, from a can, but they won't cook it traditionally for a soup. And let's all agree that it's a missed opportunity that we're about to fix right now. Of course, we'll get some powerful help. We're not going to do it by ourselves.
No, we'll have the
you talked about someone who will show us how to do borscht. Yes. Let's go grab her and let's go. Perfect.
Well, the and never do that. Well, it's a funny of this. That's what you would want that. The
We'll get back into the kitchen in a few moments. It's quite busy. There's a few rooms. Right now, let's get the borscht started, and while it cooks, we'll get back and visit the rest of the facilities. So essentially, to recap, a few ingredients. You have a lot of margins around how you cook it. The idea is to make it. There's one thing actually, Richard, we didn't discuss.
What didn't we discuss?
Borscht has to be consistent.
Consistent.
Right? Consistency.
Yes. Because to be able to stand a spoon up in it, famously, I've heard.
Yeah, because, for example, in Canada, a lot of the soups, as a chicken soup type, is extremely light.
Yep.
Right? So I know, so it's normal. If the way you do your borscht, you feel like you're trying to squeeze the maximum amount of ingredients, that's kind of the point. Yeah, it'll fill you up nicely. Yeah, let's get it.
One thing that we will need to do. They need the potatoes.
I think there was 3, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but more. You're pouring the time, so. Standing here, you're doing.
Quick little break. We had some potato logistics.
We're in the way.
We had to move that high camera. So essentially, let's get back to a more important matter: borscht and mics. So essentially, what are we discussed about the ingredients of borscht. Let's try it. Let's do it.
Perfect. Okay, so Julia.
Yeah.
My lovely translator. The key ingredients of borscht. This is called?
Буряк.
Buryak. We have kapusta.
Морква.
Cabbage, morkva.
Картопля.
Kartopla, so potato over here. And then we have the onion, cebolla.
Цибуля.
Anything else? ¿Qué más?
We have garlic, чеснок.
Garlic.
And what's the right amount of garlic?
How much garlic? Skilky garlic.
A few taxes of garlic. Маленьких 5 штук покладемо.
Yeah, so five little cloves garlic.
I'm poking a bit fun of Canadians because we don't traditionally put that much garlic in our food. Garlic is good. It's mainly the main direction. Just follow your heart. As long as you're not a vampire, you can go crazy on the garlic. Perfect.
So the first step, peeling the beetroot. Said dobre? So we have the beetroot pre-peeled here. I'll show you one of them before, which is directly behind me.
Perfect. So we won't have time to move the camera, but there are piles and piles of beetroots. Richard earlier said that they keep getting them every day. You'll see some more. So essentially, of course, if you never worked on beetroots, it will leave your hands quite red, probably gloves if you want to use it. Essentially, that's normal. Sometimes people cut it under the sink if they don't want to get their hands red, or you just accept your fate and you go through the batch.
Fortunately, we normally have gloves here because of the amount you get through in a day. Your hands turn completely bright purple within probably half an hour or so. So yeah, as you can see here, beetroot peeled to beetroot. Very simple there. And then once the beetroot is peeled, then you start the wonderful process of shredding it.
Okay, so we don't cut it like we'll cut onions, we'll shred them.
Yeah, shred them.
And why is that?
The way it's cooked by Pani Luda. I mean,
Okay,
I believe that there are multiple different ways of
Yeah,
preparing the borscht, but the way that she's always done it is kind of shredding it with not a peeler, cheese grater.
with a grater, perfect.
Or a borscht grater in this instance. Also, Pani Luda.
So actually, while she's here, I'm curious why we can ask her why shredding it instead of just cutting it with a knife.
Shredding, it depends. We cut potato, but we shred морква and we shred буряк. Але чому ми, пані Люд, подрібнюємо на цьому на терці, а не ріжемо це?
Можемо порізати дрібненько.
Sometimes
Просто
we have different
так і
recipes,
так можна.
but she likes shred.
Так, і так, і так.
Yeah, when I was young, we'll basically cut it. One element for those who's not used to work with, yeah, you can cut it. If you're not used to work with beets, and they take quite a long time to cook. So think of it almost like a potato. You know, it can take quite a while to cook. So one of the reasons of shredding it too is that it makes it smaller. So it makes it to cook easier. Because if you just try to boil, let's say, a beet, just like the whole beet, oh, you're in for like 30 minutes easily. So fantastic. And this is the limit of modern technology. There's a wonderful smell right now of onion and soon garlic. And well, you have to be here. And speaking of being here, you said that this is run by volunteers. How many volunteers, for example, in the moment we have? Usually, what is kind of how the numbers fluctuate?
About 20 or 30 people.
Wow.
Yeah, and everyone's, pretty much everyone is international. There are lots of Ukrainian volunteers here, but because of the success of, sorry, Pani Luda, I'll let you get past that. Because of the success of Twitter campaigns and Facebook in terms of asking for people to come help, we have people from all around the world that are coming to volunteer. You know, Argentina, Australia, New Zealand.
Let's switch. Actually, it makes more sense. So they come here, they cut the veggies.
Yep.
Do you have enough of the first ingredients? Because
we always need more.
Okay.
So, for instance, right now we don't have any carrots.
Okay.
So at some point today, tomorrow, we're going to need to go out and buy a truckload of carrots to continue the cutting process. We have beetroots and potatoes right now, but it's whatever the farmers and food distributors have like left over that they're able to donate to us.
Okay.
Otherwise, we're running out and buying all of these products ourselves. So,
and I guess that's one of the reasons why meals like Borsch make sense, because you can easily adapt it in terms of whatever ingredients you have, as long as you said, you respect the meats and you put some.
Beets, yes.
Perfect. How much time it takes about to do Borsch at home?
Pani Luda, is the normally 1 hour to make a borscht?
Скільки часу на приготування борщу йде?
Ну, бульйон варимо годинку хоча б, а потім борщ, хвилин 40, певно.
Because it's roast 1 hour and like prepare all the different stuff 40 minutes. I think.
Perfect. And you'll see we'll do the steps here one by one, but it's not a very involving process in the sense that it's not like you're cooking some very specific piece of meat that you exactly have to watch the cooking time. I think that's great. We can just talk and cook it. So how can I help otherwise besides just talking in front of a camera?
You can actually do some shredding of the beets.
Perfect. You give me the dirtiest job. Strategic, I see. Perfect.
Buryak or kapusta?
Буряк.
Buryak. Perfect. 1 second, I'll just scrape this into here.
Yeah. we fry all these vegetables on sunflower oil.
Sunflower oil.
Yeah. It's not typical for Ukrainian cuisine.
Because there's no shortage of sunflowers here.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes now people use olive oil, but sunflower.
Okay,
Across.
perfect.
So not too
So-
large.
Basically, almost like if you are to grate it. Perfect. Like that.
Perfect. Panie Luda?
Треба терти.
Yeah.
Так, but the size. You can. Size.
Так, чи шматочки нормальні, підходять?
І капусту?
Так? Yeah? Нормально? Yeah.
Yeah.
Дивіться,
This one.
правильно так
І
капусту?
пані Люд на великій терці.
As it's Pani Luden's Borsch recipe, we have to respect the exact dimensions and the exact ingredients,
О,
exact
молодець.
cooking order, and so on.
Супер.
Something like that. Professional chef.
So this is indeed also my own experience of childhood of whatever you'll cook, your mom will say no, you have to cook it that way. So you have to respect the ways. So essentially you want to have something that's quite thin, essentially to fit with the rest of the borscht. Perfect. Keep in mind, borscht is a very forgiving soup. So if you cut it large or smaller, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, all the ingredients blend. I think the main thing to consider is if you cut the beets too thick or the potatoes too thick, it will take forever to cook. That's, let's say, the main difference here. So I'll help you on the cabbage.
I wouldn't recommend wearing a vyshyvanka for making borscht because it's very, very dangerous.
Perfect. And
This is a red one.
And the reason why Richard says that he's quite courageous here. He's trying to prove what you should and shouldn't do. So the technique is really important right now. We're watching you.
I'm grating very slowly and very carefully.
Perfect.
I don't want this spraying everywhere.
Curious if people is that something that you can freeze easily? Beets, for example, because it's as you said, it can stain. Can you cut a bunch of beets in advance, freeze it, and
Yeah, you can do it, but we prefer.
It's a Ukrainian way.
because you have some every day. Yeah, it makes sense. Perfect.
And one of the things that every single Ukrainian babusia that I'd asked in terms of how to make a good borscht, the number one thing they said was fresh ingredients.
Fresh
They
ingredients.
said fresh ingredients. And the second thing was to make it with love. So fresh
Perfect.
ingredients and love, and then you got the best borscht. So.
Чуть-чуть відійди, щоб не попередити.
That's off my hands, yeah.
Perfect. So
That's my
so fresh ingredient, 25% love.
Exactly.
Perfect.
The reason I got this this original recipe from all of the babusias was I was chatting to the Telegraph, and David Knowles, the publisher, he said to me, "We need a recipe for the show.
Yeah.
And can you find the recipe?" And I said, "Yes, of course. I'll ask the ladies what the best recipe is." And I asked Fanny Luda first of all, and she said,
Perfect.
fresh vegetables and made with love. And I was like, well, that's not going to work, for a recipe for people. And then I asked the other Fanny Luda, big boss Fanny Luda, and she said fresh ingredients and with love. And it was as if they had all spoken together and come to some agreement. They were going to screw me over by not telling me the real recipe.
Perfect.
But really, that's what they all just think and say, because to them it's so incredibly obvious what goes into a borscht that it's like, well, it's love and make sure it's fresh. Because if you're in Ukraine, how can you not know how to make a perfect borscht?
Perfect.
Pani Luda, you got to tell me, what kind of love?
Яка любов для борщу важливіша? Любов матері, любов бабусі, яка?
Просто з любов до людей.
It's like love for people.
The love of Luda? Oh, Luda, not Luda. Yeah? Okay.
People, yeah.
People.
And we have a lot of different recipes because some people in Kherson, they add small fish in borscht. Some people add like smoked pears in borscht and pears in borscht. A lot of different recipes.
So you can add love and you can add your own twist. Sadly, love is not something you can buy in store. If you're at that stage in your life, you can't buy me love. Yeah, exactly. But you can, and this is why it's something usually, as I cooked borscht with a few times with friends. It's something that's actually very simple. You can do something else, right? As I said previously, it's not very involving. And essentially, you put all those ingredients. Afterwards, we add water, right? So essentially, the broth.
Yes.
Okay.
Which was started earlier.
Perfect.
Chicken broth.
So chicken broth, is there other variations if it's not chicken?
It can be chicken, it can be pork, or it can be beef. Sometimes people don't like add some meat. It can be different. It can be some vegetables or roots. Yeah.
So basically,
Vegetarian.
vegetarian, and that's where we mentioned also adding beans. Fantastic source of protein. When I was young, we'll often put a piece of meat inside, to just kind of that we use for the second meal. These days, I mainly cook the one with beans. I actually, over time, grew quite fond of the bean version. You can make it at any time. I know a lot of people right now are looking also for vegetarian options that don't compromise much. When you try borscht with meat and with beans, you're not losing too much of the taste. It's quite good. Give it a shot. Fantastic. You add a piece of meat, depending on if you want to make it with meat or vegetarian. Beans, what kind of beans are we talking about?
Vastola, it's white beans,
So there's definitely something around the color when you make borscht, right? White beans doesn't taste too different from red beans. I don't want to start any debate here, but it does look nicer in the borscht. So if you feel at some point that you're eating soup and the dinner is a bit too quiet, just start a fight over which beans are better, white or red. It's a whole thing. People have very strong opinions about it. Fantastic. So right now, essentially what we do is we added the onions with the oil. We added a lot of beets. That's the main ingredient.
Yep.
The
morkva as well.
Perfect. And the carrots. So carrots will kind of disappear because they'll pick up the red. They will add the flavor. They will kind of make it a bit more sweet. The beets are sweet too. So that's maybe one of the first difference that people notice with borscht is quite sweet. Most soups are salty, right? And borscht, because of the beets and the carrots, it's not too sweet, but it goes towards that taste.
But in some recipes, people add sugar, a few spoons of sugar.
Which adding a couple of pinches of salt there.
And sugar.
A little bit.
And sugar. And you can see I very handily labeled the jar sugar because in the kitchen, we have lots of these laying around in very similar locations. So most of the time people will be adding salt to their coffee, and it is a daily occurrence. It's not once a month. It's every day. People get it wrong. So
in terms of, I see some herbs. I guess we add them towards the end once it's cooked. Is there other kind of herbs or spices? You mentioned chili, I think, in one of the recipe.
The exact translations of all of these, Julie will be able to help with. That would be bay leaves, though.
So we see some quick Google translating going in the bag. Okay, so pepper to, okay. And this is, laurier is bay leaf.
I think. Looks like a bay leaf to me.
Perfect. And this is essentially anytime you have a mijoté style or you add like just a few leaves, it'll give a lot of.
Sometimes we add paprika. It's like traditional vegetable people in Carpathian area grow this, and we add this. It's little bit. It can be paprika or smoked paprika. Yeah.
So dill is something you often see. Again, ideally fresh. If all you have is dried, it'll work. Well, what is this?
It's vinegar.
Just a bit of vinegar, so about like 1 tablespoon.
Yeah.
And what does vinegar do in this soup?
It makes our borscht little bit sour, and it's for color too.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So that's one of the variations. What does it do exactly with the color when you add vinegar?
Yeah.
If I don't add it, what will happen in terms of color?
It depends. Some people don't add this in the borscht, but in general, it helps the juice inside of this beetroot to be more colorful. I don't know.
Turns the saturation up a little bit.
Perfect. So if you want to do a color correct version of the borscht, no, we laugh, but there's something about succeeding at a borscht that has just the right color that will remind you some good memories. Vinegar is one of the ways you can have those color pop. And keep in mind, even if the borscht you will have at home is not exactly the same color, the taste usually, there's a part of taste and there's a part of the color itself. Don't be too harsh if you didn't exactly succeed at the same color. As long as it tastes good and makes you happy, I think we're there. So right now we're in the process of cutting the garlic that we're prepping. Is the garlic something we add essentially towards the end?
Yes, towards the end. So
Okay.
just as I started peeling it up there, Pani Luda said, "Oh, just in a bit." So I was doing a bit of pre-prep to keep my hands busy because, as you said earlier, it's not too much of a labor-intensive thing cooking borscht. It's
Fantastic.
over a bit of time.
I see also this. We didn't address the
It's
tomato
like
sauce.
tomato pasta, tomato sauce. Sometimes in summertime people add like fresh tomatoes, but Pani Luda prepared beautiful tomato sauce before.
The sugar will also offset a bit of the taste of the tomatoes. Overall, in a lot of variations of borscht, it is not like your tomato soup though, right? In terms of taste, they really go elsewhere. This is more to add a bit of taste than go all Italian in terms of soup. This is actually, if we make a comparison to the Italian food, it's a bit like minestrone in the sense of like very dense soup, that you have a bowl of and you're surprised that there's more food coming afterwards. One question about that, because I caught a few friends off guard with this. Borscht is it the main meal or it's just an entry when you eat?
Sometimes it depends, but in general, people when they have for lunch, they eat borscht and like first food, and next it can be like some potato with meat, and sometimes it can be uзвar with some piece of pan.
Perfect. So this is like a supper to get. It's a supper to get started, right? You'll have more food. I have a few memories when I was young of friends coming over. We'll eat borscht and they're like, "Oh, that's really good. It's very consistent," because they're used to chicken broth, right? Chicken broth is very light, and they're just really happy. Like, say it's full, and you're like, "That's not even the first meal. That's just the soup, right? The meal is coming," and you see their surprise. So prepare yourself. In the department of soup, this is one fairly consistent one. It packs a lot of energy. You see a lot of ingredients here that are very easy to get, and that packs a lot of energy. So it's a very filling soup. And I think that's consistently a feedback I had from everyone who tried it for the first time. It could be its own meal. If you're not too hungry, this will definitely do the trick.
And my first ever borscht was in Ukraine, just down the road. So
Fantastic.
I'd never actually tried it before coming here. So
And
it was an awakening. Was my first meal as I crossed the border. I had a local Ukrainian showing me around Lviv. And then they said, "Hey, have you had borscht and vareniki or anything Ukrainian?" And the answer was completely no. I hadn't tried any of it. So yeah, it was mind-blowing. And I have to confess, this one that Pani Luda makes to her recipe is the best one I've ever tasted. And that's why I shout about it to everyone on Twitter all day, every day, saying,
it's spreading.
Pani Luda's borscht, because there's nothing better tasting on the planet.
So it started as Twitter comment, and now it's expanding with more and more cameras and more means of distribution. So be careful, as Richard said. Maybe your first try of borscht will change your life plan, and you'll start working on the frontline kitchen as well. It's definitely a meal that when I was young, would eat quite often, and as a soup, is something you can keep for a few days. This is where the problem starts. In practice, it's really hard to keep borscht for a few days, not because you cannot keep it, just because it's delicious. So it's kind of a side effect. It'll force you kind of hover too close to the fridge, and you're like, more borscht. So
The Ukrainian people believe that borscht in first day, second day, much more delicious than in first day.
And so the difficulty is to reach the second day. And you can keep, when they say you can eat it daily, because the taste changed a bit, there's also one thing we haven't shown here is sometimes you don't just eat borscht, you add something to the borscht. It changes a bit the color, and I'm quite surprised that we ran 30 minutes without talking about it. So sometimes you add what people think it's mayonnaise. It's not mayonnaise. See, you missed it, but she kind of rolled her eyes, like, how dare you? So please correct me then. It's not mayonnaise, of course. What is?
Sour cream or smetana. Smetana.
And what taste did it? How does it change the taste? Because usually people don't add yogurt. Like essentially, you're in the area of, let's say, cream and yogurt type.
It's a little bit fat and it's a little bit with sour taste. You must try. I can't. I can't explain this.
How does it change the taste? Does it make it
I
sweeter?
don't like smetana in borscht, but some people like milk taste in borscht.
Perfect. Yeah, it's cream, right? Essentially, one of the reasons why it's popular, besides the fact that here you can basically have smetana everywhere, right? It's extremely abundant. It's like the hummus of some areas of the world. You have it absolutely everywhere. Is also that, as we say, if you eat borscht pretty much regularly, things like adding smetana, so sour cream, will change the taste just a bit. It absolutely will taste like borscht, but it will change the taste just a bit. The other thing that sometimes changes the taste is, remember we said you can put a piece of meat in the borscht, right? And so it will flavor that, but those pieces of meat will usually go pretty quickly, right? So you have a slightly more vegetarian version. So smetana is used, when I was young, we'll put it like on the second day, right? Just so it tastes a bit different. And the third day, well, we restart and there's more borscht.
And you add smetana traditional in your plate, not in general in borscht. It's like, yeah.
So essentially, those things that we see, those ingredients that we see here are all dried out. And what people will do is a bit closer to what I just said. They'll put it in boiling water, right? How much time does it take to do a soup when it's dried out?
That takes minutes.
30 minutes.
30 minutes.
So you have the initial 20 minutes, and then you add in the 1 to 2 tins or cans of meat, and then you cook the final 10 minutes to make 30 minutes in total.
So you have the time for the ingredients to rehydrate, and then just the taste to pick up. This is, in the case of borscht, this is one area you cannot skip. Regardless of how quickly you add the ingredients, the taste comes from the idea that not just the ingredients are cooked, but that the taste blends in. And of course, adding them at different time will give you a bit more control over the texture of these.
Yeah, this 10 liters will feed 20 soldiers on the front.
Perfect.
500 milliliter portion each, which is quite a large portion. I wish I had something of 500 milliliter side to show you, but probably around about that. And then when you have all of the hearty meat in there, I've tried it many a time, and 500 milliliters is definitely enough of a portion. I think the average, I Googled it once, the average soup portion that they serve in restaurants is like 350 to 400 milliliters.
Yeah. Borscht is usually definitely, it's not kind of an entry that you just, use to warm up a bit. It's as we mentioned, it's more consistent. When you add proteins, that's what makes a huge difference as well. So essentially 20 people feeding with this.
Yeah, with one packet.
This is quite impressive. And how many of these do you send?
So we're putting out 1,000 of these a day.
1,000 of these.
Packets. So we feed 20,000 troops every single day here.
Wow.
And that is just from all of the volunteers that are constantly cutting up and then shredding and dehydrating this. And last year we were doing around about 600 packets a day on a busy day, but now because of the love from Twitter and NAFO, we've been able to purchase new dryers, new kind of shredding and grinding machines. So everything in terms of the productivity has just skyrocketed. And now we have double the amount of volunteers as well that we did last year.
Fantastic.
And as I said earlier, it's just the whole international community from all around the world that are coming here to help out. which means, that we can do 20,000 meals for the troops rather than 12, 14,000.
Perfect. So what I propose is, because you actually start talking about the dehydrators, because those veggies are big, so how do you make it smaller to fit? It's quite impressive. Again, 20 soldiers, 20 meals to get started.
Yeah, 20 soldiers.
And one question about that is, what's so important that soldiers will eat? Why is it important for them that they eat Borsch versus just, sometimes you think kind of fairly, military type of rations where you're like, oh, yeah, exactly. Does that deal with morale? Does that
100% is morale. So when the soldiers, because half of our deliveries that go to the front are taken by the soldiers themselves, and then they come back, and then I remember we were standing just in this location here when one of the soldiers said, there's nothing more kind of heartwarming for us than knowing loads of grandmothers are off in Lviv making us homemade Borsch. So for them, it's such an incredible morale boost. And they said nothing else gives them such a high morale boost, and all sat round together because you're cooking for 20 people, all eating your homemade mother's Borsch, because this is a grandmother's Borsch recipe.
So this is a
100% love in this.
Yeah, so you see it in the ingredients. The level of dense, concentrated love is pretty high. I guess one thing, if you start cooking this as we speak, you definitely notice that there's a smell. There's a very nice, heartwarming smell that the beets, as we said, is very sweet. I remember when we'll cook this at home and people will come and like, what is the smell? It has a definite, clear taste to it, and other. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, me too. So before we get to try it, what I propose is let's show the facility.
And always make sure to try your Borsch, of course. Which Fanny Luda's very good at, because it's her recipe. So she knows exactly the right moment. Trying different parts of the pan.
How is it? Just much low.
Okay. Let's show around, because as you said, you had a lot of support from different organizations that's allowed you to scale your activities to help more people. So let's. Okay. We're just showing a bit around. Yeah. So we told you, be careful with the beets. So we arrived at a moment where everybody's busy. You see it. You might not hear it a lot in the mics, but there's a little humming noise in this room. What is this?
That is the sound of the dryers. They're the size of your average washing machine at home. One thing with the dryers, though, that I didn't say to you is they are empty right now because they've just been taken off the trays. So every single one of these has nothing inside of.
Well, it will be an empty box.
But in about half an hour's time, what you'll see is loads of the trays, all filled up with freshly shredded potatoes, beetroots, and everything else that we're cutting up outside. So I'll bring you back in 30 minutes once they're all loaded up.
Perfect. So the main idea is we get the ingredients, we dehydrate them, then you can move them around across the territory. You can keep them indefinitely, I guess.
Yeah. But the thing is, they get used so quickly that even though they're dehydrated and would last, at least a year in this packet, they don't need to, because our troops on the front need it so much and so often that these just go straight out and they're within the week, So they will last, but they don't need to last. It's more of a convenience things for the guys on the front to just not have to, be chopping up vegetables when rockets are flying in. It's just, pour this into a bucket,
add water, and I guess once you started, the homing mechanism of everyone kicks in because they smell the delicious Borsch, and everybody gets back, take their break, and eat when they can. You saw, there are some of the dehydrators there. You said that you have some others dehydrated across the city.
Undisclosed location, a very secret location. But we have another. It was about another 10 of those, but because we got a large dryer machine now, we've added effectively another 7 or 8 dryers.
So Are those in restaurants or those?
No, this is in one location.
Okay.
In a factory location.
Okay, perfect.
One of the local businesses very kindly lets us use one of their rooms because here we have an incredibly unstable power supply, so we can only run a couple of stoves without the whole system kind of conking out. So that's why we have all of the dryers over an industrial unit where they have, access to unlimited power pretty much.
So-
without anything falling over.
So essentially, those are Ukrainians here that say, I have the facilities. There's a few windows of opportunities across the week where if you have pallets of cut veggies, you can bring them there. It takes how much time to dehydrate? So basically,
Which therefore means that Oksana and Luda have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning each morning to change all of the dryers over. And that's why we have everything cut and shredded into big buckets so that they're ready to kind of head straight out to the dryers and not spend their self loads of time shredding everything.
because today is, for those watching this probably a bit later, it's a weekend, right? And the reason we picked up today is because it's a bit quieter than usual. If we were to try to do the same thing over the week, you'll see a lot of delivery trucks and those 20 volunteers that work. So essentially, even with all those people, this is not enough. Basically, you have so much veggies coming out that you need help from local businesses and help to be able to dehydrate. You said those are 12-hour cycles, so it runs nonstop. Wow, 3 a.m. to make the switch. Okay, fantastic.
Sometimes I feel up to it after doing a 12-hour shift here to then go at 3 o'clock in the morning to empty the dryers, but I tend to avoid that. I don't really like the
After a certain time.
midnight shift. But we can actually take it over to the bucket if you want to see
Sure.
collection of shredded beef. And now that I have the company, I've got the... So rather than what we saw just inside there, what we were just doing where we're using the cheese grater to do everything by hand, we're using a machine to shred all of these beets. And then this is how we're making, this is how we're making the 20,000 meals a day, is because we have all of this, actually double this, 20 buckets or so, drying out in these huge dehydrators every day. And you think when you look at that packet of Borsch that we had over there, the amount of Borsch that was in the bottom of it, very small amount. So you see where the...
So that's not even all the buckets, right?
That's half of the bucket.
Wow. Okay, so that's half of the buckets. You dehydrate this every day, essentially, and they keep coming. And this is, by the way, what we saw is a dehydrated package. As we said, that's, again, once you dry this, it becomes like a half of the volume or something like that. So it's
roughly half. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So it's quite impressive. It's way less. You said it takes about 20 minutes to rehydrate,
And then you add the meat to just simmer in and take all of the flavors in the final 10 minutes there.
Perfect. Quick question, since we're here. Right now, you said you're running low on carrots.
Yep.
What else? How does that kind of the situation evolves on your end? What do you see as kind of running low on right now or in the future? Because you said dehydrators seems to be an issue too, because you need them. What else is missing?
Effectively, we need a more stable power supply, and we need a larger space to have even more dryers. Because currently, in a factory where we have the 20, 30 big dryers, that is a secure facility, and only Luda and Oksana can go there.
You can only go at certain times.
So therefore, they can't have other volunteers going in and out, which means that they are just working completely flat out, and they can't actually do any more. So what we need is an on-site facility that's not in a secure place, so that we, as the volunteers, can be changing all of this stuff over during the day. Because they're currently at complete capacity.
So it creates kind of a pressure for some volunteers to say, because of course you cannot have 20 different volunteers coming up and go in a specific facility. As you said, it goes in this kind of position like, I have to make the switch every 12 hours. If I don't do it now, this is kilos, a fantastic quantity of ingredients that will have to wait another 12 hours batch, or that puts everything a bit late. What else is kind of do you need more help on that it's kind of slowing you down?
Yeah, we just need manpower and woman power. Sorry, that's even more important than manpower because women cut a lot quicker than us slow men. I don't want to say any names over there, but there are some people that can cut half the speed, or a quarter of the speed. Not the babusias, because the babusias cook 10 times quicker than anyone. They're chopping like machines, and that was one of the funny stories of you saying, well, what do we actually need? And one of the big things was, well, what kind of machinery could we buy that is actually quicker at cutting than babusias? And it doesn't exist. So they're going at this pace, and we go, okay, well, we can't get one of these.
And as you said, like even if you have a machine, you have to peel it, you have to prep. It's not enough to just, because those machines you can feed a fantastic quantity. It doesn't take that much time to shred it, but you have to prep all those ingredients, and that's fairly time consuming.
Our wonderful Pani Luda is ready for us.
Yeah.
Картоплю покласти в бульйончик. Так.
Pani Luda's got some exciting stuff to show.
А то проморгаємо все.
That's it?
Так.
Every day? Okay. So the fry not slash into one little stand on that. The ball find wood there, but there's very cut, subtract, and it's very the other one. There was you ever the area thing, partly.
So this is just the broth that the potatoes are going into?
Хай вариться тепер.
Perfect.
Хай вариться.
So you boil the potato. Okay, perfect. So you have the broth. You boil the potatoes. Once the what after
Чуть
that?
пізніше, коли вже картопля майже звариться, тоді даємо капуни.
When it's completely cooked or when it starts to cook? Tada.
Julia.
Де Юля?
It's going so well. What's up there?
See, this is why we need Julia, because every second of every day, she's coming back. Oh!
That's all right.
Very expensive microphones being launched all over the place here. So the wonderful thing about Julia is that she's just been translating for me since day dot, which means my Ukrainian isn't very good, is it?
So the question is, once potatoes are, do we add the cabbage once potatoes are cooked, or do we do it a bit before?
Ну, хвилин 10, може. Добрий день.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Okay. And then we add the cabbage.
Потім капуста. Так.
Perfect. So since we're here, one thing I was quite curious, you mentioned a lot of volunteers, and we saw them come and go and bring different ingredients and help to cut the ingredients. I'm kind of curious to talk to a few of them.
Tiger, you wonderful handsome man. Do you mind if I...
Let me just mic you up.
So, you don't mind what you were trying to say there?
So we captured you while you're trying to cook some food, and we have a few questions for you.
You're not too probing, don't worry.
You won't get arrested. Wouldn't be the first time. And did you already plan to go to Ukraine? Did you arrive? It was part of the things you wanted to do, or you kind of heard about that organization once you were there?
I did already plan to come here, yeah, and I was looking for opportunities about how to volunteer here and the front line. The Lviv Volunteer Kitchen seemed like a good way to get a first step into Ukraine, yeah, and spend a few weeks here at least, and I ended up spending a few months here now.
That's how many hours when you arrive? Is it like you spend the whole day there? What's kind of the day-to-day look like?
It varies. It can be just a few hours, or sometimes it's a full 8-10 hour day, depending on what's going on. Yeah,
perfect. Richard mentioned that the activity is fairly impressive in terms of how many of those packages are shipped every day. What kind of gives you energy to power through all those vegetables, and besides the power of Borsch and the good food? Where do you find the energy to keep doing it? Not only for the first week, because sometimes that's what happens with volunteers. They're available for a week or two, but as you said, you're still here after all this time. Where do you get that energy?
Knowing that you're parts of a bigger movement to fight fascism, essentially, for a fledgling democracy, who's fighting on behalf of all of us.
Hey, thank you so much for your help and for taking a bit of the time. Perfect.
The most frequent volunteers. He's been every day. He doesn't take a day off, an afternoon off. He is the key man. So whenever anyone new turns up and they have no idea what to do, it's a Tiger. Please, can you
Yeah, I actually forgot to ask you. Did you used to work in the kitchen, or do you have prior experience in that, or you really learn on the fly?
No, just I have a small farm at home, so I to handle a lot of vegetables, I suppose. But no, I don't really have much experience in the kitchen at all beyond cooking myself.
So you don't need to be an expert chef or anything. If you
Just a farmer.
yeah,
You do not need to be a farmer. You do not need any experience. Come to the Live Well Volunteer Kitchen and help out.
if you have love to give, and there's a way to pour it in there. I'm getting pretty hungry though. This thing is the proximity of this is
I never realised how long Borsch takes when you're watching it.
yeah. It's easier when you do something else.
Very smart. She's going off, having some lovely coffee and tea breaks in between. Whilst
Yeah.
we're chatting away, watching water boil, as they say. Got to try the potato.
Proba the kartoffeln. My Ukrainian is getting a little better. I can understand now.
Yeah? Aye, perfect. Move this garlic out of the way.
So there's something essentially fairly stress-free in that process where it doesn't matter how much time the potatoes has to cook. Once they're ready, you just put the next ingredient, right?
Tak. Correct. And tak is
Tak.
yes in Ukrainian.
Perfect.
It's one of the first words you learn at the kitchen because you have to say yes all the time. They say, lift this box, move this thing, cut this onion. And, tak, tak, tak is what you learn to say.
So I propose maybe talk to another volunteer,
Yes.
and then we will take just a little break. You cannot rush the Borsch. We'll just let it do its thing, and then we'll get to taste it.
Well, I think what would be a great idea is to have the lovely Julia, who's been our translator.
Hi, Julia.
Hello.
So we saw you running around unloading trucks. What did just arrive?
One woman, she collects some food and some things for soldiers, and they have some some company, and they decided to help our soldiers with food.
So for you, it's a kind of a puzzle to say, okay, I have now a lot of those ingredients. What can I cook with it? How can I...
Yeah, and a small spoiler, today we will have half of a big pig
Okay,
in the kitchen.
perfect.
Yes, somebody donated.
So what are your plans with the half a pig?
I don't know if it's a PC, TV friendly, webinar friendly.
We're all adults.
Effectively, the reality is this massive pig come, they plunk it on the table, and they say, Richard, do you know how to cut up a pig? And I say, I have no idea how to cut up a pig. And then I have to try and figure out how to hack away at this thing.
When you have a lot of international volunteers coming up, and you're from here, you actually see the situation unfold, like everyone. How does it make you feel to see people from everywhere in the world coming up and try to help with their hands?
It's all the time I try to say Ukrainians, we're so grateful because it's shock. When I saw first volunteers from in this place, it was like, how I tried to ask him why you decided to go to this place. What happened? You're from Canada. It was a girl from Canada, guy from USA, guy from Poland. Okay, Poland, they are our neighbors, but Canada is so far away, and but all these people.
Uruguay as well.
Or we had volunteer from Uruguay. Yeah, with all these people, they who help us, who support us. I'm so grateful, and I have the same. And I try to present like small things for these people because it's I don't know. I don't have a lot of words, but I have a lot of feelings when I see these people in volunteer kitchen.
It's very touching to see it, and it's very concrete, right? You're trying to help, and you give, in many ways, the most precious thing you have, which is time, and you try to make sure that it reaches everyone. It's pretty impressive to see. I'm glad we took a bit of time to discuss with you, to meet Richard, to see the whole buzzing activity here of how it actually gets done. Sometimes you see people getting, when it comes to kind of humanitarian aid, to get fairly disillusioned about, is the money, time, resources actually going in the field? We've been here, you've been here with us for one hour, and it's happening. You have a lot of help. You have a lot of people giving time and transforming those ingredients, literally, into very concrete support.
Yeah, and kitchen, it's a little bit more than kitchen because it's beautiful community. You can find friends in this place. So you can find somebody will find love in this place. Who knows?
So that's for the next episode. How do you find love by volunteering? It's another scope.
Not in the kitchen though. Okay, you know.
Wonderful initiative. I'm getting quite hungry to try it. You don't smell it, but it's happening here in the kitchen. So essentially, this is, as you said, like a calmer day, right?
Yeah. It's hectic running around and yeah.
Quite
You saw
impressive.
how many people were still in the kitchen when we were just trying to navigate on our way to the dryer.
It's pretty impressive. What I propose is let's take a little break. As we said, you cannot rush the borscht. This is something you do in a huge quantity. Let's wait a bit. We'll take a little pause and we'll show you how the end results look like. So welcome back. We actually only did a few things while we were off camera. We essentially put everything back into the borscht. We let it cook for about 20 minutes, something like that. And now is the favorite part, is we get to actually try it. So I know you were waiting for it. Yeah.
A little bit. Wow, eh? Дуже гарний.
So you can look at the color. Is this famous red color that we talked about?
Сметана, right?
And Penny Luda can show us exactly how much of this to put in. There we are.
Don't worry, you don't have to. Perfect. You see the dill that was added as well.
Wow.
Perfect. We will do the others.
I think first portion for guests.
We'll put everything.
Everyone at once.
We'll put everything.
How incredibly beautiful. Then it's got to do what everyone does and take a photo of their food.
Because today that's how you eat. You eat with Instagram. Yes.
Instagram. What is life without that?
So after all the cooking, all the ingredients that you saw, everything local and fresh, a lot of love from the whole team. Let's try.
Let's try, of course.
Смачного, Penny Luda.
Смачного.
Пробуйте, бо я ж переживаю.
She, being an incredibly lovely Ukrainian woman, would like to go feed others before herself, whereas me being not Ukrainian, I'm going to just stuff my face.
Actually good.
My favorite.
Дуже смачно.
My favorite every time.
So you see, it's fairly consistent. It's essentially what we said. You're trying to have something consistent and not like a chicken broth. It's literally 100% the opposite of that. And
Дуже смачно. Не просто смачно, це дуже.
I think for the next part, we're going to be busy eating. And at that stage, we're also tired and the day is sunsetting. Richard, I just want to take a second. What is the next step if people want to be able to help while they're eating borscht at home? Sorry, at home as well. You mentioned a few times that people hear about the organization on Twitter.
Yes.
What do I look for on Twitter?
So it's Frontline Kitchen, but the tag is at Frontline Kit. So KIT.
Perfect.
But if people want to come volunteer, it's this little piece of paper down here that says volunteeringukraine.com. And there they'll find out about exactly what we're doing here. It kind of gives you a description, cutting up vegetables, the times, the location of where we are, and also a link to the Twitter account from there. And it also shows other volunteering opportunities across the country. So volunteeringukraine.com to be able to find us, and Frontline Kitchen to be able to see all of the funny, stupid stuff that me and Julia are doing every day, singing Harry Styles and running around eating borscht and everything else.
Fantastic. To keep the moral going here and in the field for those who also are, I hope, can share the borscht with us. Those back at home when you're watching this, regardless where you are. Maybe Canadian, maybe from elsewhere. We put the recipe down below in the comments, description, whatever is the platform. So make sure you get to try it by yourself. There's a, as I like to say, there's a before Borsch, there's an after Borsch, but more importantly, there's a during Borsch. So I'll let you enjoy your Borsch. Take a look on the socials. If you can help, fantastic. If all you can do is reshare, that is also just as important.
Yes.
We met with a few volunteers that just heard about this. The opportunity was right. They were able to help. Every bit counts. So,
And of course, send the photos of their Borsch to us on Twitter, Frontline Kit. Then we will get this blown up everywhere, and we'll just have images of all your different Borsches everywhere.
what is your preferences? Did you make a variation? What is the color?
Yes,
The main question is, what is the color?
Yep.
So perfect. Take care, everyone. Thank you so much for it.
Дякую. Дякую.